March is almost over.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, we couldn't end the month without our annual tradition, of course.
The March
It's time for
Madness.
some March Madness, where we put things into a bracket and whittle it down from 64 options to one
Mm-hmm.
collectively.
Yes. Our brackets may differ from the group bracket here.
Yes, of course. Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Seasonal Anime Checkup OVA. It's a podcast where we have conversations about video games, anime, and manga. Hello, I'm Jared, joined as always by Doc, Allen, Lady.
Hello.
This is episode number 431. It is time once again for some March Madness.
Woo.
Our 8th iteration
That's crazy to
of
me.
March Madness.
That seems fake.
It's not. It's very real.
No, I know. I'm just saying time is a butthead.
Time is a butthead, yes. We've done, obviously, if you go back into our archives, we've done a lot of different categories. This time we are doing characters from the Trail series, which, if you know about that series, there's a lot of characters. So
There's not a shortage of them.
it was not hard to find 64 characters to choose from. Like, literally just choosing from characters that are just playable in those games. Very easy to find 64, and then we had to cut some out, so
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna, when we go through this list and everything, you're gonna be like, there's people missing from here. It's like, yeah, there's a reason for that.
There's a reason. We could do a whole other bracket.
We could just double this entire thing and make it do like 128 and we'd still be fine probably.
It'd be kind of interesting to do a non-playable bracket of trails at some point.
That'd be a lot more work as well.
Well, I know, but I'm saying
But again, yeah, you're not wrong. It would be a lot of we could fill out a bracket of that. You're 100% true. Yeah, we got characters from all the games, from the Sky games, the Crossbell games, the Cold Steel games, Reverie, the Daybreak games. So essentially, we say playable characters. It's mostly the party members, and it's also sometimes characters that will show up in your party here and there,
like guest characters.
like guest characters. If there are some you think are missing from here, it's probably because we cut some guest characters out, just because we needed to get to 64 and we already were over.
07 Toval.
But most of the main party members are here and accounted for, so. That is what we have to deal with, and of course, with that comes, we have 64. Like we said, we gotta get through these first 32 matchups, and there's always going to be, when you put 64 entries against each other and you randomize it a bunch of times, you're going to get some difficult first round matchups, of course.
Yeah, no kidding.
And you're gonna be like, wow, that sucks.
Yeah, there was one in particular that was like, how dare?
Yeah.
Which I know you know because I already about it to you.
So yeah, we'll dive into this here. I guess before we start, how did you find the overall bracket in terms of making yours? Did you find it? You obviously said there was a first round matchup that was difficult for you, but outside of that, how did you find it? Was it easy to put together? Was there a lot of challenging decisions to be made, or was it fairly straightforward?
It was fairly straightforward for me, actually. Like, there were a few times I'm like, I could see it going either way, but I kind of was just going with the gut. So, not too bad. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the same. There was a couple that I was just like, My final pick also was a difficult one, I thought, to choose.
My final pick was actually difficult for me too.
There was a couple preceding that there was also a little bit difficult, but most of them
First
were
round.
fairly straightforward in terms of
First round was the roughest for me.
This one goes through, blah 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 blah.
Yep.
But let's dive into these opening matchups here.
Also, fair warning, there may be spoilers.
There may be some spoilers for games here. And of course, as well as with all the other ones, if you would like to follow along or do your own bracket, the link will be in the description of the podcast where you can do that.
Yay!
And we'll just keep it open, forever. So
Cool.
If you come
Join
to
us.
this a bajillion years after the fact and we're all gone, you could be like, okay, I can still do this if the website's still up.
Are you expecting the two of us to die and people to come back and do
A
these
bajillion
predictions?
years from now, maybe.
Okay, okay.
I don't think we're gonna live that long.
You never know. I might just live that long out of spite.
I don't know if you would like that.
No, I wouldn't. I was
Uh,
just making a joke.
Either way, let's dive
It's
in.
joke.
Let's dive into the bracket here. We
Let's do
have
it.
32 matchups to get through here in the opening round of 64.
Mm-hmm.
Our first matchup, we have Annalise Elfeed
Mm-hmm.
from Sky's second chapter versus Rishia Mao from the Crossbell games.
Mm-hmm.
This was an easy one for me because I don't know one of these characters.
Annalise is actually really interesting because she is the granddaughter of the Ailey's One Blade hermit teacher guy.
hmm
So like she's kind of a practitioner, but she's not like a divine blade.
Right.
And she's also just like hella bros with Estelle. So it's fun. She's a fun bracer, but like I think Risha is a more interesting character.
hmm
Even though they've done her dirty for the past several games.
Giving her some interesting lifts here and there.
Oh my God. They're just absurd at this point.
So funny.
But yeah, this one was an easy one for me. Like I said, Annalise is fun, but like she has not a lot's been done with her.
Right.
I think she has potential to be more interesting if they like explore the whole thing with her granddad.
Our second matchup here, we see Claire Reveld from Cold Steel versus Elise Schwarza
Okay, I was like,
from
both of
Cold
these
Steel
characters
2.
suck.
You're not wrong.
It's like, oh God, I dislike both of you. I went with Claire though
Yeah,
because
I did as well. I think because like she has more
she has
character.
something besides I have a crush on my brother.
Yeah, that's all Elise is. Our next matchup, we have Noelle Seeker from the Crossbell Games versus Elaine Auclair from the Daybreak Games.
I went with Elaine here.
I also did.
I think she's interesting. I'm really, really liking her dynamic in
hmm
Daybreak. Which you haven't played Daybreak 2 yet, but you'll get to see more of her actually very soon.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my Daybreak opinions were just based off of the first
Daybreak
game,
1. Hmm.
where I thought that a lot of those were good characters. So
Yeah, I think she's fun. I like how she interacts with a lot of characters. So
yeah,
I was like, and I also just don't care for Noelle.
yeah, we talked about that when we played those Crossbell games, but like Noelle's is kind of like one of the weaker characters, at least party members that you get in those games. So
Hmm.
this seemed like a little bit of a layup.
Hmm.
Up next, we have Katra Salacion from Daybreak
Hmm.
versus Altina Orion from the Cold Steel games.
Hmm. This one was actually somewhat difficult for me. And
hmm
by somewhat, I mean it was difficult for me.
Yeah, this one is a little bit of I guess, a handicap for me because, again, I don't know how much more they go into like Katra's characterization
A
in
lot.
2, so I don't have that knowledge compared to you.
Hmm.
So
I really liked what they did with Katra
I
in Daybreak
I feel
2
like that probably influenced my decision.
to go to Altina.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really, really like what they did with Katra. Um, I am not going to spoil it for you.
Right. Yeah, I'm not expecting you to.
So I think that Altina is the pick here.
Okay.
Um, because I also really like Altina. I think that what they did with Katra is really interesting.
hmm
And it's something that like is related to stuff that we've seen before, but it's different, and it's different in like a really unique way. Like it's I don't want to keep saying interesting, but it is interesting. There's a lot of depth to his character that I was not expecting because he doesn't have a whole lot of that in Daybreak 1.
hmm
But he gets a lot into.
Well, it's good to know.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll have to talk about it once you get to that
Yeah,
section.
yeah, of course. Up next, we have C from Reverie
hmm
versus Aaron Way from Daybreak.
I had to go with Aaron because I love Aaron
I mean,
Way.
obviously, this is the most unsurprising. This was the easiest one for you, just to be like,
I love Aaron so
like
much.
98% of this bracket, it would have just been immediately.
I mean, C is fun in Reverie anyway.
Yeah, they do a lot of interesting things with that character, especially like with the reveal and everything of who C
hmm
actually is and all that sort of stuff. Um,
And his babysitting ways.
and his babysitting ways, which is very funny. But Aaron was such just a wild character in Daybreak One, at least for me. Like I'm sure he's continues that
hmm
ridiculousness into two, and then the other game as well. So I expect more just wacky shenanigans from him. So I went with Aaron on this.
I love Aaron. I loved him in Daybreak. I love him even more in Daybreak 2. Like, Aaron is incredible. I love him. But also, like, as you're well aware, I kind of love that, like, kind of a head playboy dude that, like, secretly has a heart of gold. Like, I love that archetype.
Yeah.
And Aaron is that, but he's also on top of that just a troll. I think him and Wazzy would be an interesting
Oh
combination. Can you
God,
imagine the two of them together?
that's a disaster waiting to happen. Up next we have Fee Clausel from Cold Steel
hmm
versus Jin
hmm
from Sky, and he's also in Daybreak.
Yeah. This was easy.
Was it?
hmm
Who did you pick?
Fee?
Okay. I didn't know if I was about to get like the rug pulled out from under me, like, oh, this is really easy, and I went with the other option.
No. No, Fee is fun.
Yeah,
And I really like her backstory. I think they do a lot with her. And she's also gotten even more development post Cold Steel. So like she's my girl.
yeah,
I like her a lot. Not that Jin's a bad character. Um, he's really, really not. You'll see that in Sky, but um, he's not as interesting as the other playable characters in Sky.
sure.
So even then, I'm like, So this was an easy one for me.
Up next we have definitely very real Chloe Renz
Mm-hmm.
from Sky
Mm-hmm.
versus Sherazard Harvey from Sky as well. Skies versus Sky.
Sky versus Sky. You had a handicap here.
I mean, kind of. I'm very aware of both of these characters because they've
Mm-hmm.
been in other games that I've played,
Mm-hmm.
so I knew of them. It wasn't like these were like complete unknowns.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I went with Shara.
me too.
Yay! My car is named after her.
Up next, we got a Daybreak battle.
Yep.
It
Also
is
easy.
it is Reset Twinings versus Van Arkride.
I went with Van.
Me too.
He's fun.
He's a good egg.
He's a good egg. He loves sweets. Just give him the sweets. That's
Hmm.
all he needs. But yeah, he's a different kind of protagonist, and I enjoy him greatly. I was sad they didn't give him a new fit in two though.
Up next we have Estelle Bright from Sky versus Celeste Ortagia from Daybreak 2.
Also an easy one.
Yeah,
Estelle, good job.
it's time for Ultra Violence.
It's time for ultraviolence.
We have Elliot Craig from Cold Steel versus Burgard Zeman from Daybreak.
I went with Elliot.
I did as well.
Elliot, good job. Woo!
This was an unfortunate matchup, I think.
It was very
Yeah.
unfortunate.
We got Reen Schnauzer from the Cold Steel games versus Ellie McDowell from the Crossbell games.
I really like Ellie,
Same.
but I was like, you're up against Reen. I'm
Good
sorry.
old Reen, yeah.
You can't. I'm sorry.
Unfortunate matchup.
It was unfortunate. There are a few unfortunates in this first
Hmm.
cut for sure, but I was like, ah, damn. Well, sorry, Ellie. I like you, but I don't like you that much.
Yeah. Up next, we have Fairy Al Fayed from Daybreak versus Tio Plato from the Crossbell Games.
My girl Tio.
Tio Tot.
I love Tio Tot. I have a figure of her.
Yeah, I think this was also an easy one.
Yeah, Fairy's probably my least favorite of the Daybreak crew.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Again, not to say that I dislike her, but
She just wasn't as interesting as the others, let's say.
yeah, and like especially compared to Tio.
Right, yeah.
This next one was also really unfortunate for me. Really
uh,
unfortunate.
we have Riaz Argent from Sky the Third versus Lloyd Bannings from the Crossbell Games.
He had a barrier to get over.
Fishing Lloyd.
Fishing Lloyd.
Lloyd's good.
Lloyd's so good. Again, it was an unfortunate one because Reese is a really good character.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I love her dynamic with Kevin, but you're going against Lloyd.
I really should have like excluded Kevin on this list when I sent it to you, just
No!
to see if you would have noticed.
So
That
mean.
would have been very funny.
Oh my God.
Uh, but yeah, Lloyd goes through here.
Yeah.
Up next we have Emma Milstein from Cold Steel versus Leon Balthazar from Daybreak. Duh.
So I like Leon a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's fun. But Emma had to go forward here for me.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
Next we have a gate.
A gate. I
A,
get.
a gate from the Sky Games versus Swin Abel from Reverie.
I'm curious on where you went on this one.
Well, that's a good question. Let me look because I think this was
Okay.
kind of like an either or scenario for me.
Okay.
Let's see here. My prediction, which I named Ah.
Ah!
I went with Swin, but
I
again,
also
I
went
think
with
it's
Swin.
an either or
Yeah.
scenario here. But
So if
I
we
thought
both went
Swin
with
was
Swin,
yeah, I think that's fair to go through. I thought
yeah.
Swin was interesting in Reverie.
You'll like him a lot more in Daybreak 2, I think.
Yeah,
He's a very good character.
I mean, I guess it probably doesn't also help that like the only things I know of a gate are just him palling around with Tia and just having to deal with that weird age difference.
Yeah, everybody like shipping them together. It's really, really
And
weird.
he's also kind of just like a their character in
Yeah.
the Cold Steel games and Reverie, so
He's kind of a their character in Sky too, except for like a few things that come up that you're like, oh, that's intriguing. And then he goes back to being kind of just there.
yeah. Next up we have Josette Kapua from Sky the Second Chapter versus Shizuna Rem Misurugi from Daybreak.
I went with Shizuna.
Shizuna's real fun.
She's so fun. She's a goblin.
She is a goblin.
She is such a goblin character, and I love her.
Real good. Next we have Milliam Orion from Cold Steel versus Ren Bright from every game.
Every game. This one was also unfortunate, but
Yeah.
like Rin was obviously the choice here.
Mm-hmm. Next we have Nadia Rain from Reverie versus Lecter from a lot of games.
This one was also unfortunate for
Mm-hmm.
me. I'm a big fan of Lecter.
Yes, in his party
And
outfit.
his party outfit with his leaning looking at the cat, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, he's been in the game since Sky and
Little
he's a very
goblin.
he's a little goblin, but he's also a very gray character. And I
Yes.
think that they do some interesting things with his story. Um, and especially like his backstory and how he got to where he is. Like it's so messed up and it's fun. I mean, it's not fun, but like it's interesting.
Yeah.
I love Nadia. I think Nadia is fantastic, but I was just like, I gotta go Elector on this one, man.
Yeah.
The party shirt, it wins.
The party shirt, it does indeed win. Next, we have Angelica Ragnar from Cold Steel and Aurelia Le Guin from Cold Steel 3 and 4 and Reverie.
This one was easy for me
Yes.
because I was like, it's Le Guin because she's not a predator.
Also, Le Guin's very cool.
Yeah, she's genuinely a fun character.
Yeah.
Got that big sword and her like dynamic with the Windman.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
Next we have Eustace Alberea from Cold Steel versus Olivier. Just a random bard from Sky.
Yeah, just a board, just a little guy,
Just a little guy.
just a little guy. I mean, like, I love you, Usus, but you can't go against him. You just can't.
It's true.
He's just a little guy.
Just a little guy.
He's definitely not anybody important or anything.
Nah.
Nah.
Next up, a battle of the little kids, the
New
tots.
class 7.
New class 7. We have Ash Carbide from Cold Steel 3 and 4 versus Muse Egret from Cold Steel 3 and 4.
Hey, remember how I was saying earlier that I like characters
Yes.
that are kind of scummy but also have a
Yes.
heart of gold?
You mean you didn't pick Muse over Ash? I'm so shocked.
I didn't. I went with Ash. Did you also go with Ash?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, just checking.
Next we have Sarah Valstein from Cold Steel versus Agnes Claudel from Daybreak.
I struggled with this one a little.
Yeah.
Um, because I like both of these characters.
Uh-huh.
Um, I went with Agnes.
I believe I did as well.
Okay.
I can double check. I did. Wow.
Okay. So Agnes is going against Ash.
Yes. We only got a handful left of this
Oh,
first round.
this next one
This
made
one
me
was
sad.
very unfortunate as well.
It was so unfortunate.
We have Wazi Hemisphere from the Crossbell Games versus some guy named Kevin?
Some guy named Kevin, Onion Head.
Some guy named Kevin? I think this was a mistake. I think we just moved Wazi forward.
Not you're doing my boy Kevin wrong.
Wazi's great, but Kevin's also just great but forgotten.
Great but forgotten, but like my God, he's so good. Obviously you have the handicap here of not having played second chapter and the third. But like Kevin not like, you know, not like Wazzy. Wazzy does
Yes.
but he's one of the best Trails characters, period. Even though they always forget him.
It's a shame he keeps getting forgotten.
It's so sad.
Next up, we have Toa Herschel from Cold Steel versus Alfin Raised Arnoa from Cold Steel as well.
Well, my girl Toa
Princess versus Student Council President.
/ teacher.
Who wins? It's Toa.
It's Toa.
And then we get to Al's favorite matchup of the first round.
I wanted to cry.
Our boy Kurt Vander
Kurt Vander
from the Cold Steel Games versus our other boy Randy Orlando from Crossbell.
This was so unfortunate.
Very unfortunate.
I love both of these characters. I love them.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's obvious who I went with.
Yeah, Kurt Vander.
I didn't go with Kurt Vander.
Randy Orlando.
I went with my boy Randy.
Yeah, I mean, of course.
I had to. I'm sorry, Kurt. I'm sorry.
It's a tough choice.
It was very tough.
Next up, we have Alisa Reinford from Cold Steel, versus Joshua Bright from Sky.
I'm interested to see what you did here.
What did I do here? That's a great question. I went with Joshua.
I also went with Joshua.
He's been fun in all the games I've seen him in, which has been quite a few of them. So,
Mm-hmm.
you
And
know,
he's JYB.
yeah.
Yeah, he's a really, really fun character.
Elisa's fine, but again, she's not one of my favorites from like the Cold Steel cast.
I like her a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was looking at this, I was like, it's got to be Joshua.
Yeah. Next, we have Judith Lanster from Daybreak versus Tita Russell from Sky.
I went with Judith because she's also a goblin
I also went
character.
with Judith.
She's so good.
She's very good.
I like Tita, but they don't do a whole lot with Tita other than ship her with
A
Agate.
gate.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Yuta Crawford from Cold Steel versus Gaius Warzel from Cold Steel.
I love you guys, but this was an easy one.
Yes.
It was Yuna.
Yep. Next, we have Machias Regnitz from Cold Steel versus Sharon Kruger from Cold Steel. Uh-huh. A lot of thoughts on this one.
So here's the thing. I looked at it and I was like, either character I pick here is gonna get knocked out in the next one.
Sure.
So it doesn't really matter. I went with Machias.
I went with Sharon.
Okay. How do you want to go for our group bracket?
Flip a coin.
I don't have a coin.
I think I have a coin somewhere.
Okay.
If I can find it.
Okay. I could also just do a coin flip thingy on the computer.
I have a coin.
All right.
All right. Heads will be Machias, tails will be Sharon. You have to trust me that I'm doing this the correct way.
I believe in you.
Ugh. I caught it. It's cold. It is heads.
So Machias.
Machias.
All right. He goes forward.
He goes forward. Next up, we have Arios McLean from the Crossbell Games versus Mueller Vander.
I went with Mueller.
I think I also went with Mueller.
He's great.
Mueller just, he's got a lot to deal with. Arios is just, he's okay.
He's okay. I don't dislike him, but Mueller having to wrangle in a bard is pretty good.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty legit.
Our penultimate matchup of the first round sees Lapis Rosenberg from Reverie versus Julia Schwartz from Sky.
I went with Lapis.
Me too, obviously, because I have a handicap here. Just a bit.
Julia's fine. Some of her most interesting interactions are actually with Mueller. Believe it or not.
And then we have our final matchup.
All right.
It is Crow Armburst from Cold Steel versus Laura Arcade from Cold Steel.
This one probably was harder for you than it was for me.
I thought about it for a little bit, then I was like, oh, okay, that's easy.
All right, so what'd you go with?
I went with Laura, of course. Come on.
I went with Crow.
Laura's the best gal.
To you, but
I gotta show some bias here.
it's Crow.
No, come on.
All right, you know what?
Have you seen Laura with her big sword and how much of a power couple she is with Reen Schnauzer?
I have seen her with a big sword. I just wish they did something with her post 2.
She got to come in with a new outfit and look cool.
She did get to
and
do
carry
that.
a big sword still.
Yeah.
And tell Reen, hey, stop trying to act like you're gonna go die, you dummy.
Yeah. But Crow is a major part of moving things forward in Cold Steel.
I don't know about that.
And is some of the like most emotional weight of Cold Steel in terms of like how things affect Reen.
That's subjective. Come on.
and we're just kind of chasing him around throughout the entirety of Cold Steel.
Maybe, I guess. I don't know.
Also kind of a goblin.
Yeah, potentially. Maybe. Who's to say? That's in the eye of the beholder. Yeah, I'm okay with moving Crow forward. I understand. I understand the reasons. Like, I know, obviously, I think that is the right choice, but
right. I understand.
My bracket is my bracket. So
you had to go to bat for your girl. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. If it had been a hard decision with Toa, I would have gone to bat for her too. But she had an easier matchup.
Right.
Yep.
Well, that takes us to the round of 32.
All right.
Half of the contestants are gone, half
Goodbye.
remain.
Okay.
Now we have our first matchup of this round. We have Rishia versus Claire.
Again, I felt
Easy.
like this was easy.
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 Next we have Elaine versus Altina.
Hmm.
Hmm.
It's obviously
Hmm.
different from my bracket, but I might put Altina forward.
This is the same for my bracket, but I went with Elaine going forward.
Okay, you went with Elaine. What
Yeah.
what was your reasoning?
I think Elaine's just been interesting in Daybreak 1. You know,
Hmm.
I like her relationship with Van,
Renee.
with Renee as well. Like their whole thing together as well, like all that, their whole backstory and all that sort of stuff. Like it's been very interesting to learn everything, and I'm very curious to see where all that goes in the next game and all that sort of stuff. Um,
I also think it's interesting how she deals with the whole idea of like how to navigate in gray areas since she's a bracer.
yeah.
I think that's a really interesting bit to her
Hmm.
because obviously like a lot of what Van does is like diametrically opposed to what she does for a living.
Right, and also like the idea like her navigating through like this newfound celebrity because like she's
Hmm.
such a high ranking bracer now and all that sort of stuff. So
Right.
all that's
You know what?
interesting. I like Altina as well.
I do too.
I think I found Elaine just more of an interesting character.
I let's go Elaine.
Okay. I was like, I'm gonna disagree, but I will go with your reasoning.
No, I mean like I think Elaine is a really great character. So I am not opposed to it.
All right, well how about this one? We have Aaron versus Fee.
I mean, I had to go with my boy Aaron.
I did as well.
Okay.
Shara versus Van.
I went with Van.
I did as well. Estelle versus Elliot.
With Estelle.
Estelle. Reen Schnauzer versus Teotot.
This
Go
one made
on,
me
Reen.
sad. Good job, Reem, but it made me sad.
Go on, Reen.
Yep.
Lloyd versus Emma.
I also went with Lloyd.
Lloyd.
Lucky
Swin
Fisher
versus
boy.
Shizuna.
I went with Shizuna here.
Let me see if this was a similar matchup on mine. It was. I also went with Shizuna, so let's just go ahead and move
Brr.
that forward. We have Ren versus Lecter. This was a little bit of a challenging one.
It wasn't for me so much, even though I love Lecter.
Hmm.
I just think that like what they've done with Ren throughout the games has been incredible.
Yeah, I agree.
So I went with Ren.
We have Le Guin versus Olivier.
I went with a bard.
This is some random bard.
Just a random bard.
We have Ash versus Agnes.
Um, I went with Ash.
Yeah,
I don't know what you did.
I think I did the same.
Okay.
Let me check. Yep, sure did.
This next one made me sad.
We got Kevin and Toa.
I'm sorry.
Al's faves.
I went with Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
Mm, I love you, Toa. I'm sorry.
We got Randy Orlando versus Joshua Bright. Randolph Orlandolph.
I know I shouldn't have, but I did go with Randy.
I mean, yeah, of course. This one was a little tough for me.
This one was not tough for
We
me,
got
even though
Judith
I like
and
them both.
Yuna. Yeah, I was like, these are good characters.
Um, Yuna is so good.
Hmm.
And I really enjoy her speeches and stuff in the beginning of 4.
Yeah, she's basically kind of like the deuteragonist at times
Yeah.
in 4. So that was basically the argument I gave to myself. I was like, oh right, she does this. That's why she should go forward.
Yeah, she's really good.
Yeah, Two good characters though.
Yeah.
Machias and Mueller.
I went with Mueller Vander.
What about Lapis and Crow?
I went with Crow.
Yeah, I'll go with that as well.
Okay.
Sweet 16.
Now
16
things
left.
are gonna get even harder.
Yes. Risha and Elaine.
Um, I would go Elaine.
I did as well. Um, just for all the stuff I mentioned earlier, but also like, Risha I think is interesting in the crossbell games. I
Mhm.
think the stuff she's done outside of those games has just kind of not been as interesting because she just kind of shows up and
She's
is
there.
there, and then her boobs just keep going further up
And becoming more like torpedo-ish.
until they're just going to be pointing straight upwards in 3 games.
Oh my god.
Again, this next one is another hard one.
It's so unfortunate.
Aaron and Van.
So this one I honestly like looking at it now, I'm wondering like why I made the choice that I made. Not that it's a bad one, but
I
I'm
love to
like,
second guess.
it's hard. Aaron's so good. But I really like Van.
Mhm.
I really like Van.
What did you go with?
I went with Van.
I went with Aaron.
Oh, all right.
Again, they are two very good characters. Look, there is nothing quite like seeing. I mean, Aaron does have the most famous line in Daybreak. There is no debating that.
No, you're right. You're right.
He does have the most famous line in all of that game.
He does.
There
He
is
does.
there is nothing better than hanging out with the boys in a hot bath.
Oh my God. I love Aaron so much.
And
He's like he's
Van is really
iconic.
great too, but Aaron is
Yeah.
just like that. He just has that level of like goblin nature to him that just makes him stand out in a wild cast already.
Hmm.
And I think like when you meet him initially as well, you don't expect him to be like as just
Like that.
as like that as he is, and then he just like the more you get to know him, the more he just becomes more of a gremlin, and it's just like this guy's great.
Yeah, because you meet him and he's like in his full on like play theater like elegant woman gear.
Yeah.
And then you start talking to him, you're like, oh, okay.
Like I know you would even made mention of like, oh, this is one of my favorite characters in this game. Like when I was playing it, and like first meeting him, I was just like, okay. And then the more I got along, the more the game went along, and the further I got in and everything, I was like, okay, I get it. I get it now. I get where Al's coming from in this.
Aaron is still my favorite Daybreak character.
Yeah. So
Um, so Aaron is our
I mean,
all right,
if
well,
you're good with it, I'm good with it.
here's the thing is that we don't have to make Elaine go up against her love interest.
True.
So,
All right.
I think that's a valid choice.
Well, here's another difficult choice. Estelle versus Reen. Uh-huh. Not an
I
easy matchup, of course.
I went with Reen.
Yeah, I did as well.
Okay, so I don't have to justify it, but I did go with Reen. But I love you, Estelle. I have them next to each other on a shelf right now. There's space for Joshua once he comes.
Well, are you ready for more protagonist versus protagonist violence? Because I think our next matchup is Lloyd and Shizna, but I think Lloyd's going forward here.
Yeah, Lloyd's going forward. I love you, Shizuna, you're a
Good old
goblin, but
Lloyd. He's gonna go fishing.
he's got to get over the barrier, you know?
Next we have Ren versus Olivier, which I think this is the key matchup where our brackets deviate.
Ooh, you went with Ren.
I did.
Okay. I mean,
I
I did just make an argument that she has one of the best arcs in the entire series.
I mean, that's basically kind of my argument as well. I like Olivier a lot. Like, I think the stuff he does throughout the games is very fun and silly and just very ridiculous. And like, you get a
Hmm.
very good complete arc with him.
Hmm.
That's kind of just now. I would say it's probably closed off now, at least. Like,
Yeah, yeah, for the most part.
yeah. Like, I mean, it's not like saying he won't ever show up again, but like,
No, but he's a family man
yeah,
now.
his arc is basically kind of we've seen his arc come begin and conclude essentially. With Ren, we've literally seen her like grow up through this series and like go through a lot of trials and tribulations that
Just wait till Daybreak 2.
oh boy, I can't wait.
Oh.
But again, like, we've seen a lot she's had to go through from just like,
Hmm.
her time in Ouroboros to breaking out of that to finding family with Estelle and Joshua.
Running away from that family.
Running away from that family, finding her real family. Um, Basically every main character will like come across her and like
Hmm.
be like, I gotta help this kid.
I gotta help this kid.
I mean,
There's also a beautiful scene in Daybreak 2 that made me just like sob
yeah.
like a baby with Rin. Um, I mean, I think Rin is the valid choice here.
Hmm.
I just made that argument earlier that she has like one of the best arcs. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, of
I
course.
that's kind of just where my head was at. 'Cause, like these are two very good characters, two
Hmm.
characters that I like a lot. But Ren's arc is just really interesting, and it's one of the cool things that they've been able to pull off within this series, considering like they're how many games in at this point, and she's been one of the constant through lines throughout, and
Hmm.
you're still continuing to see her story evolve and change over time. So
Hmm.
that was me.
Yeah, Rin goes forward.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
We got Ash and Kevin, and again,
I
this
w-
is another part where I think our brackets deviated.
I went with Kevin.
I went with Ash, but again, I think it's just the fact that I haven't spent as much spent as much time with Kevin as you have.
Yeah. Kevin is one of the best protagonists of the Trail series, period. And I ain't afraid to say it.
It's a shame they forget him.
It is a shame. He is genuinely a very, very intriguing character, and they can still do a lot with him. Um, the way that he reacts to things in Sky the Second is just really, really, really bonkers. Um, but then like his story in the third, I was just like, oh, this is brilliant. Like this is so good. And then they like had him in the Crossbell games for a little bit. I think he's in Azure only, right?
Yes.
So you kind of got to see some of what he was about. And then they forgot about him.
I mean, we will see him again.
We will.
He's going to be in the game after Daybreak 2.
Kai,
Yeah, so
whatever the English
right. Yeah.
version of Kai will be.
We'll see him in that.
Yes.
Um
His new fit looks great.
but yeah, again, this was just a thing of like I
You're
don't have
familiar with Ash and not as familiar
yeah,
with
I
Kevin.
don't have that knowledge of Sky 2 and 3, so I can't really give a good assessment here.
Hmm.
So I would most likely just defer to you on this one. Ash is fun. He's a little goblin as well. He's kind of like the proto of Aaron, but Aaron just
Yeah.
takes it into 3,000 different more directions.
Yep.
Um, but if you want to move Kevin forward, I'm totally okay with that.
I say we move Kevin forward on this one.
Okay.
I do love Ash, but Kevin is brilliant character.
Next we have Randolph or Landolph versus Una Crawford.
I went with Randolph or Landolph.
Yeah, Randy Orlando.
My boy.
Never been a greater first impression of a character. Just from name
Honestly,
alone.
just from name alone, we're just like, all right, we're all in. And then we got to play the crossbow games. So like, we're further all in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What a good character.
He's so good.
Next we got Mueller and Crow. It's our
I
final
went with
matchup of this
Crow.
one. Yeah, that makes sense. We're down to the Elite Eight.
Oh, this is gonna get
We
dirty.
got Elaine and Aaron.
I think the answer here is Aaron.
Yeah. Reen Schnauzer versus Lloyd Bannings.
Pro tags are starting to fight. The boys are fighting.
The boys are back in town.
Oh, oh, nice.
They're going to point at each other or make motion at each other like they did in Cold Steel 3 on a train.
Perfect. Love it, love it, love it. I went with Reen.
Yeah, I did as well.
Okay, well then we don't have to
Um,
we don't have to fight on that one.
Again, two really good characters. I think obviously they just have done more with Reen, so
Yeah. And I mean it makes sense. He has more games, but like Lloyd has been in things like Reverie, but I feel like his arc is done.
yeah,
Like,
like they finished that arc up in Reverie
yeah, so
for
like
sure.
he's a dad now. That's it. Like that's what he does. He's a
Yep.
dad. Dad detective. Good for him, honestly.
We got Ren and Kevin. I think you know where I would be going with this, so I will leave the floor open for you just to figure out where your head's at here. Because this is not going to be an easy matchup for you, I would assume.
No, this is probably one of the hardest ones
Yeah.
at this point. Oh, sorry, you're gonna have to edit that.
It's not the first thing I'll have to edit in this podcast from you, so.
Sorry. Oh man. So here's my thinking.
Okay.
While I personally would pick Kevin,
Right.
and I personally did pick Kevin,
Right.
this is our group bracket.
Right.
And with you not having as much experience with Kevin, I feel like it would be unfair to move him forward.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because you would just be moving him forward on my say.
Right.
Whereas with Ren, you have,
We both have knowledge here.
yeah, yeah. Um,
Which I would say we both have knowledge for like everyone
mhm,
left, so.
yeah, yeah. Um, so again, while I personally did and would move Kevin forward here, I think for our SAC OVA bracket, Ren is the answer.
Okie dokie.
Is that justified? Is that all right?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay.
I think that's a fair option there. And then our final matchup here of this round, we got Randy versus Crow.
Um, Randy is the answer?
Sure,
All right.
I'll go with that.
Randy!
Randolph or Landolph. All right, our final four.
Oh my God, this is a brutal final four.
We have Aaron and Reen.
I have to go with Reen on it.
Yeah, I think this was the same matchup I had, and it was just
Mhm.
like, look, I like Aaron a lot, but Reen is kind of he has to go forward here.
He has to go forward, yeah. Like Reen is an incredible character.
Yeah. And then we have Ren and Randy.
I feel like Ren's the answer.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, okay. So, do you remember how I told you on mine? My final matchup was very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to my final matchup.
Oh wow. See, mine was Kevin versus Reen, so
I mean, hey, it's similar. Like I said,
yeah.
that one matchup is where our brackets deviated, and it literally is. That's right. It's right there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Who did you go with?
Let's see here. Let me double check.
Because my bracket winner was Reen.
I went with Ren, but again, it's like I could literally go either way here.
Mm-hmm.
Like both of these characters are very good. Both well deserving of this. Like you can make arguments for either character on this to win this, and I would be like, yeah, sure, of course, that makes a ton of sense. They
Hmm.
are both characters who have gone through pretty extensive character arcs and are still ongoing character
Ongoing
arcs.
character arcs.
So it's interesting in that regard as well. And just we've seen these are two characters we've seen grow both as characters and
And up.
and up throughout these games as well. So it's two. They are two similar characters in that regard, and kind of probably in a lot of regards as well, which is kind of, you might not necessarily think of when you would first like put these two together.
Hmm.
So it's like I said, it's a hard matchup to think of or like to pick a winner here from.
Yeah, I mean, they both have the whole thing of like they have to overcome like pretty intense trauma to
Mm-hmm.
like accept that people want to be around them. And
Both have new different parents than what they originally were born from.
true,
Both
true,
have a found family they find eventually.
true,
Are
true.
these are just the same character? Hang on a second.
Well, I mean, their origins are a little bit different, but I mean, they do have a lot of
Both
similarities.
like mechs.
Both like mechs.
Both
That's
had
true.
high standings at the student council in their schools. Hmm.
Hmm.
Are these just the same character?
Uh,
Did they just redo the same archetype when they made Reen, but just it was make him a dude?
let's make him a dude. Um,
Again, like I probably would not have like look here and think like, oh yeah, Ren and Reen, very similar characters, but you kind of put them together and just like, hang on a second.
yeah, I don't know that Reen's as good with computers as Ren, but
No, probably not. But
um,
he is probably better at playing a children's card game.
probably. And I think, it's kind of a given that he's better at like combat
Sure, yeah.
because he's a divine blade at this point.
Yeah.
And like not to poo-poo on Ren because obviously she can fight like hell, but um, I think he's got a leg up on her on that one.
Yeah.
She has a doctorate though.
It's true, she does.
I love that she has a doctorate and she's like, what if I go to high school?
I'm bored. Why not?
Well, I mean, it makes sense. She wants to have like a normal
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
childhood type experience, but like it's so funny that she has a doctorate and she's like, what if I just go to high school?
One's got a doctorate, one's like a war hero. Same
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Hmm.
Yeah, again, literally, I could go either way on this.
I could too. I mean, like I said, I picked Reen for mine when it was a matchup with Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think it's pretty easy to say that these are easily two of the best characters in the Trail series.
Yeah. Like, if you asked me tomorrow if I, like, had to pick between these two, I could pick Reen tomorrow, and then maybe the next day would be Ren again. Who knows?
Hmm.
It's very difficult. It's the way to choose this is like it's through by the narrowest of edges, essentially.
Hmm.
So good
So who do we
characters.
go with?
That's. I mean, we could just cop out here
Are you gonna coin flip
and
it?
go to the coin. I mean, to be fair, I mean, I don't know if either one of us really have.
I don't have like a strong argument against one of them.
Right, exactly. Like that was what I was gonna say. Like neither of us are gonna like pull out like, all right, here's my big argument to push this person forward because we're both gonna like they're both really good. So
They're both really, really good.
and I
Um,
feel like if you had an argument, the argument could just be, yeah, well, this character kind of does the same thing. So,
yeah.
so
Yeah, I mean, like it's kind of how it goes.
yeah. All right. We're doing the coin. This
All
may be a
right.
cop out, but I feel like it is the easiest way to do this and to actually come up with a winner and not sit here for another like 20 minutes and be like,
And it's our bracket. We do what we want.
It's true. We do what we want. All right. So, once again, heads will be Rain Schnauzer.
Okay.
Tails will be Ren Bright.
Okay. And we trust you. Have at it. Don't drop the coin. Ooh, I heard the coin flip. That was nice.
Yeah, get that coin ASMR in here.
Hell yeah.
Congratulations to a character's name that starts with R.
R-E, maybe?
It starts with an R-E and has also an N in their first name.
Wow.
It's Reen Schnauzer.
Reen Schnauzer! We should actually probably call him by his real name.
Reen
now.
Schwarzer. Reen
Since he's
Schnauzer.
won. Since he's won, Reen Schwarzer is the winner.
Again, I think you can go with either of those characters. Very good. Oh, that's just the email being like, "Here's you made a prediction." It's like, yeah, I know. Yeah. Again, both those characters are very good. You could literally go either way. Like literally, it is literally a coin flip between those two characters of who could be better. And I think, like we said, or at least like I said, if we were doing this tomorrow, it could be.
It could go
It could go the
direction.
complete opposite way. So.
And I think that the two of these are like peak Trails writing.
Yes.
Which, applause. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with these characters because they're obviously not done with them.
And we will see both of these characters in Kaino Kiseki.
Yep.
Which is cool to think of.
Yeah, that's super cool. We'll see what happens. Maybe we'll be like, all right, now we got these winners doing things together.
We'll finally get a definitive answer for both of us. Be like,
Nah, it's probably still gonna be us both being like, man, these characters are good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's gonna do it for
Congratulations, Reen.
our Trails of Madness. Reed is the winner. He has outlasted 63 other competitors of playable characters from all 3 bajillion Trails games that are out there.
Woo!
And that's going to do it for our March Madness this year and also for our podcast this week.
Yay.
Thank you all for joining us. Hopefully you make out your own bracket because those are fun to make out. Who doesn't love to make out a bracket?
They are very fun.
And challenge yourself and just make yourself go through agony.
Isn't that great?
Yay.
Yay.
That's going to do it for us, though, this week. So if you'd like more from us, head on over to seasonalanimecheckup.com or sac.cool, where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Jared Now Watch. You can also find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you'd like more from Ann Ladium, go to annladium.com. She's got columns and reviews. You can follow us on Twitter and TikTok at Anime Checkup. Follow us on Blue Sky at seasonalanimecheckup.com. You can buy our books, One Shiny Moment, a critical analysis of Love, Life, Sunshine, Hot Tubs, and Pac-Man on Amazon.com. And you support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA. Buy us a slice of pizza, get access to unedited versions of the podcast early. Our monthly exclusive Patreon podcast, which it is up now.
It is.
Al's pick of the month, of course, was Harold and Maude. The 1971 film.
Yeah. I wanted to see if I still liked it.
Yep, and we found the answer to that out, and we also learned how it is to watch that film when you are progressively getting sick.
Yep.
So you can listen to that on the Patreon right now, and also our other episodes in that podcast, and all the other bonus content as well, like getting this podcast early, unedited. You could have already listened to it by now.
Wow.
Yippee. Next week, the beginning of April, we'll talk about something. Al may have finished her Otome game by then. Maybe we'll talk about that, or we'll talk about something else. Who knows?
I am almost certain I will have finished it by then because I'm on the last route.
Yeah, so we'll potentially chit-chat about that.
So that would be Him, The Smile, and Bloom.
We'll bloom into smiles in April.
Spring! It's a good one!